bor Ping William Ato in Juba Malatori Ayambio Ping William Ato in Benti Wala Kwaju Kaya wow Ping William Ato in Malkal Wala Pinyaram Ping William
One minute.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning in. Welcome to Lagos State Media. Once again, we are live today in this very, very crucial time for us. And now we are happy to have Honorable Maulana Ateny Wek Ateny in the studio with us today. Maulana, welcome to Lagos State Media again. It's been a while.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be with you again. You know, I've talked to you people for the first time a few months ago, and now I am here again. I'm happy. I'm glad to meet you again.
Thank you so much. Maulana, without wasting much time, to all our viewers, please share this video to your connection and friends. Let everybody share it, please. And if you have any question later on, you can just write it down there in the comment section, and we will bring it up to Honorable Maulana to answer it for you. Maulana, as we have seen for the last 3 or going to 4 weeks now, I'm seeing the dogfight erupt in capital Khartoum between the Rapid Armed Forces and the National Sudan National Armed Forces. This incident, this group, we have seen a lot of atrocities are happening, and the civilian and citizen, they are really suffering a lot of lack of electricity, water, food, and a lot of things are happening. And these 2 generals, they were groomed by General Bashir, who is the former president of Sudan. They were working together as a team during the wartime, and they joined hands together to host to take down the presidency of Bashir. They took power, and now the cause of their grievances, how they fall apart, what are the root causes of the conflict in Sudan now, and how can they be addressed?
First of all, thank you so much. I would like in this moment to say that the root causes of the conflict, which has now been raging on in the Sudan for the last 21 days, and is almost now entering into first month since the fighting, entrenched in the way Sudan has been governed. The marginalizations of certain tribes in the Sudan is the root cause of all the conflict in the Sudan, in which South Sudan was part of that marginalization. And in 2011, South Sudan managed to gain independence from the Sudan. The other marginalized areas of the Nuba Mountain, the Angazna, Darfur, and Eastern Sudan have remained within United Sudan. But again, the successive regimes in Khartoum, now led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, did not realize that he needs to consider marginalizations. When you look at the type of conflict, is a very complicated conflict because nobody in Sudan has imagined one time that the war will move to the center, will move to Khartoum, and the fighting will be around the presidential palace, the military headquarters, and the infrastructures that are called Sudan infrastructure. They have never realized that it will happen one time. But it happened. And Burhan now is a victim of marginalization that has been oversaw by the successive Khartoum regimes. Burhan is a victim in as much as I can say also Imeti is also a victim of the way Sudan has been governed. So the conflict is so deep to the point that anyone, particularly those who are actually neighbors to Sudan, and especially South Sudan, this is a war we cannot be happy to see happening, because our interest with that of the Sudan are in the same basket. And therefore, no South Sudanese that can actually celebrate the war in the Sudan, simply because our interest and this war is going actually to affect us more than any other neighbor of the Sudan. Unless you are an ignorant South Sudanese, you can think that what is happening in Khartoum is good for them. So to come to an end, to end the question as to what is the root cause, the root cause is the marginalization. Bashir created rapid support forces in an attempt to deter the army from taking the government from him, and to weaken the army at the same time. So for the last 18 or 20 years, rapid support force has been there as a deterrent to any military coup. And by the time when the change and freedom movement were actually demonstrating in Khartoum, the forces of freedom and change movement, it was Imeti, Mohamed Hamdan Doglo, who is the commander of the rapid force, that has actually collided with colluded with the army and the civilian to overthrow Bashir. Had it not been for the fact that the rapid support forces had wanted Bashir to be removed, Bashir would still be the president up to now. Nobody would have actually managed to remove Bashir if Imeti did not agree. So after overthrowing Bashir, they were supposed to continue respecting themselves for what they are until they go to transitions, to finish the transition and end the government to the civilian elected government. Then there would have been no any clashes. But there were people that within the army that were thinking that rapid support force was a militia, and therefore it cannot be integrated into the army. That is why the elements within the rapid support force were saying, if we were not the army, why did we fight in South Sudan and we fought in Darfur, and we have lost hundreds of thousands of our men and women in the front line? Why did you allow us to be in the front line if we were not the army? And what is the army all about? If somebody who is armed and can also go to fight is not an army, then what is it? So, by the way, it is the hypocrites from both sides that actually manage to push the two giants into a war that is now affecting Sudan and affecting the neighbors.
Thank you so much, Mulana, for answering that. As you mentioned, there are these two generals. They are victims themselves in this crisis. And as we have learned some few months when Amity has visited Russia, and he came back, and the relationship between Amity and Burhan, it began to shake for a while. And when the fighting erupted, we have seen in northern Sudan how the armed forces of Egypt came into the rescue in the fighting to take back the airport, and also we doubt it. We see as there are some actors here whom we can just not point finger to, but what are the what are the main actors involved in this conflict, and what are their interests and motivation? Is there any possibility of other countries who are involved behind this conflict?
In fact, Ding Paul, Isaac, first, I one time described it in one of my articles that a war is like a field of chili. When you cultivate chili in the field, and then I also described the parties in the war as the chili harvesters. You can understand when you go into the field of chili to harvest the chili, the fact would be that anyone who is involved in harvesting the chili comes out with at least sneezes. He sneezes, and nobody is free in the war. The war in Sudan is very difficult war, and you cannot at this point point any finger to the parties that might be involved behind the scene. But it is elected to develop into regional war because of the involvement or any possible involvement from the outsiders. In any country where there are two strong men, okay, not one, because in any country, particularly the countries that are institutionalized, the reason why the institutions work properly is when there is only one president in the country, and the other institutions work collaboratively. But when there are a number of other presidents, by virtue of how they behave, those countries with two or more presidents are likely to have trouble like the one which is happening now in the Sudan. In a normal situation, vice president of any country, if he goes visiting foreign land, he would be visiting on behalf of the president. I've never seen a normal situation where vice president can visit on his own accord without sanction by the president, without being delegated by the president. So when I've seen Imeti traveling to Russia, not representing Burhan, I felt something wrong, something fishy was going on. Because if you allow someone who is not president to be also a master of foreign policy, that is a time bomb. It can detonate anytime. So, but all in all, to be honest with you, this war has no winner, and there will be no winner in this war. unless the Sudanese people sit and the region also sit with them alike to make sure this war is brought to an end. If they are waiting for a winner, okay, the loser will be Sudanese people. They are the losers, including even the leaders will be also losers because they will have nobody actually to govern if this war continue. Now we have seen the displacement. Many people were displaced. They went to the towns outside Khartoum, and Khartoum is a ghost town as we speak. Life in Khartoum has come to a standstill, and therefore this is not a war to celebrate, even if the winner actually imposed himself to be the winner. That winner will stay a loser for a very long time unless peace agreement is brokered between the two warring parties in the Sudan, like the one in South Sudan. Last time when President al-Bashir managed to bring the South Sudanese parties to broker peace, to sign the peace agreement, the revitalized peace agreement on the resolution of conflict in the 2018, it was on the premises that nobody is a winner in a war. President Salva Kiir did not seek to win a war. Neither did Dr. Riek Machar wanted to win a war. That is why they sat and they had a win-win solutions to the conflict in our country. We are not unique. We are not an island. What apply on us should also apply on others. So those who brokered peace for us should also understand that we also have a leverage now to broker a peace for them. You know, President Salva Kiir and the President of Djibouti and the President of Kenya were mentioned by names by the IGAD to mediate the conflict, because although we were actually given the agreement that was complicated and difficult to implement, South Sudanese, owing to the fact that they don't want war, they don't want to continue in war, in the fact of war, they decided to implement the agreement. And now, Dr. Riek and President Salva Kiir are actually working collaboratively, and they are working together. Okay, in spite of some small difficulties here and there, none of them wants to go back to war. They wanted to go to election. This is what should be also applied to the parties in the Sudan. A revitalized peace agreement of the Sudan has to be negotiated, and it is incumbent upon the IGAD, led by Al-Burhan himself, because the Burhan is the current leader of the IGAD. And if the current leader of IGAD is now in the trench fighting, then who is going to mediate? So Al-Burhan should also think carefully, not to seek, precious force in order to eliminate the rapid support force. He must know that the fighting is inside the civil population, and then they must protect the people of Sudan. So peace is within IGAD, and it is within the capacity of IGAD to broker peace. All the other elements that are actually playing the game behind the scene, IGAD should point a finger at them, because the IGAD knows them. Who are these people?
Yeah, thank you so much for that elaboration into that question. We understand since the fighting started in Khartoum, we heard call out from different countries, like Secretary of State also called to restrain and requested to accept ceasefire, the same to Arab League and also the region like IGAD. As you have mentioned, President Kiir was appointed to lead the delegation to resolving this issue. And coming to the ceasefire that has been signed, has been violated several times. We don't know what role or mechanism that can regional and international actors can play into resolving this conflict in Sudan?
Already the African Union has sought internationally the African solutions to the African problems. And the United Nations Security Councils has adopted this. If there is a conflict within Africa, it is thought to be within the African Union. The African Union, the Peace and Security Council of the African Union, has all the mechanism, including intervention, even by force, if need be. So I don't see any limitations in the African Union providing solution to African problems. There are a number of mechanisms that can be used. One I told you earlier, that there is something called precedence, or you call it, in law you call it state decisis. The precedence is used for similar cases. If somebody has committed a crime of some kind, and that person is found guilty by the court of law, and the judge that is passing judgment, so it's necessary to punish the culprit severely. If that culprit appealed and the higher court upheld the same decision, that one will be called a case law. It will be within the judges made law, and the judges will apply the same to the similar situation. What happened to us in South Sudan was similar to what is happening in Khartoum. Although we don't have an element of marginalization, we don't have any tribe that is marginalized in Sudan, in South Sudan. South Sudanese are all equal before the law. Yes, there is an element of some people having money, having this, like any other place in the world. There are those who have and those who have not. And there's no country in the world that has brought that one to an end. Or the countries work to close the gap between the poor and the rich, which they have not managed, including the United States of America, which is the world economic power, has not managed to close the gap between the poor and the rich. So the issue of Sudan as an element of marginalization, which differs from us. But the symptom of the disease are the same. Okay? The power struggle. The war that was fought in 2013 and in 2016 was about power struggle. That is why when the agreement was signed, the revitalized peace agreement or resolution of conflict, people ended up on who should take which position and who should take how many positions in which level of government. Okay? If it was about the cause of marginalization, the cause of misgoverning and all this, it should have ended with not with the power sharing, but it should have ended with the reforms, okay, of the thing that the opposition sees to be to have not been done well. But ours ended up with with power, with the power sharing. The same thing applied to Sudan. Okay, President Salva Kiir and President Ruto of Kenya and President Gole of Djibouti should sit, because they are part of the IGAD, and decide the same thing for the Sudan. Imeti should come back as the first vice president, with Burhan as president. All those other players in the war, like Kabashi, like Yasser Alata, okay, ended up there as the members of the political Supreme Council. That the same way. Now they should also divide, because Imeti as a number of people now actually are with him. Okay, they should also provide the same thing that MAT should be having, will be sharing power with Al Burhan, and they also divide ministers the way it is divided in South Sudan. That is the only mechanism that will bring this, showdown to an end. Otherwise, people of Sudan will suffer more than this.
Thank you so much. Before yield the microphone to my colleague to take over, I have a final question to you here. What step can be taken to ensure the protection of human rights and promote accountability for the past atrocities committed during the conflict?
You know, human rights, the protection of human rights goes together with the stability of one given country. If the country is not stable, you won't be starting with human rights, because human rights first requires leadership that is controlling. Okay? But if there are different parties that are all strong in their own corners, talking about human rights will be futile attempt, because you won't know actually which part is violating human rights. If you know, how do you bring that party into account? When I see the United States of America urging the, through its Secretary of State, Blinken, when he was calling for the two parties to stop fighting, so that the Americans and the European and the international community evacuate their citizens, I almost cried, because I said, my God, this is not a solution. How do you be calling for people to stop fighting in order to take your people? And then what brought your people to be in that country in the first place? If you think your people cannot be caught up in a situation like that, why do you have to go to another people's country? The best thing would have been the America called the two parties to stop with immediate effect, even threatening them to use force. The war would have come to an end. And also, there is one thing: whoever goes into fighting wanted to be a darling of United States of America. Anybody wanted to be seen as a good boy by the Americans. Okay? So if Blinken was to say, stop fighting, okay, the parties would have considered stopping stopping fighting, simply because anyone would say United States is a powerful country, and will know exactly who is continue to fight in this regard. And all of them wanted international recognition, which is led by United States. They would have stopped fighting. But telling them to stop just for a moment to take their own citizen, and then leave the two parties to fight in front of 6 million Sudanese in Khartoum, that was not a good solution at all. So that was a failure actually from the international community, which I think should not be the way to go. Next time, if there is any fighting in any country, the first thing for them is to say, stop fighting. Stop fighting, and then we will take you responsible for the life of our citizen and the life of the citizen of your own country. That's how the leaders will come to account. The leaders will live in fear. By taking your citizen out of the fighting in order to leave the fighting to rage on, like the way now it is continued, that was not a good one. So the way forward is that the IGAD should do it best. If the thing is difficult for them, they should now call the African Union, particularly the Security and Peace Council, the Peace and Security Council. If the Peace and Security Council doesn't see this conflict to be within its powers to stop it, then they should refer it to United Nations Security Council. And the United Nations Security Council, as the largest security council in the world, should now think on how to bring an end to war in the Sudan. We are going to be affected as South Sudanese, and we want this war to stop as soon as possible, so that it doesn't affect us. Now you can see the influx of refugees. We have more than 1 million South Sudanese refugees in Khartoum. Some of them decided to stay in Khartoum even with no good reason for them to live in Khartoum. Now, knowing that now the fighting is coming to Khartoum, they have now decided to come out in mass. And that is now a catastrophic event for South Sudan. We have no capacity to evacuate them smoothly like the way United States evacuated more than 10,000 of its citizens in Sudan. And we have no capacity to evacuate them like the United Kingdom or Japanese or Chinese taking their citizens away from Sudan. So our Sudanese South Sudanese citizens are actually are actually going by road in a difficult situation. They have crossed. Some of them now have crossed to rank. Some of them are packed in a paloj, not even aware how you will take them. And if you take them, where do you take them? Are you taking them to house them where? Already there is difficulties in Juba, the difficulty of accommodations, and Juba may not have the capacity to have hundreds of thousands, coming from another city to live in Juba.
Actually, there's a very important question, follow-up question regarding that, Isaac, before you go ahead. There's a follow-up question John Kumayol has. It's very important. I don't want to let that go. John Kumayol asking you, Honorable Ateny Wek, he said, what South Sudan government is doing to returnees who are in dire need on the border town? You mentioned that. Can you elaborate more about that? What is the government of South Sudan doing for those returnees that were stuck 1.5 million in Khartoum and in the border? Thank you.
Well, South Sudan government is doing its best to ensure within its limited capacity to ensure that South Sudanese citizens are brought back from Sudan, particularly those who are actually already in the border. And now the humanitarians and disaster management has been going up and down to ensure that the refugee camps are actually established for the Sudanese who are actually marching to the borders of the northern part of South Sudan, particularly in the Awil area, northern Barghazal, and Bantiu. We have a limited capacity, but the government of South Sudan has done its best. Also, the citizen initiative, which is a citizen initiative led by
the network is cutting Mulana off. I think it's paused. Yeah, on the other side in the clubhouse, just get ready if when Paul Mark could finish asking his question, we will be heading to clubhouse and also in the section here to give the questions that you people laid out to Honorable Ateny Wek.
Okay. Yeah, Isaac, I will be leaving shortly in 30 minutes. So you guys continue with the show. I think you can, if you could hook up your phone with the Clubhouse so that I can leave you that would be good. So come up in Clubhouse, then if I leave, you can still have a connection with Clubhouse. And also too, I turn off the hand raising Clubhouse until we put in our question and then if somebody come up, so you can bring them up. So I will be leaving very soon, so you guys continue. So
Isaac, I believe there shouldn't be no further question, because I know that you have exhausted question with the former press secretary Ateny Wek Ateny. If he comes back, I suggest that we will take question from Clubhouse. In that way, we can be having interaction with people outside, with other people in other media. In that way, it will accommodate Kulu Junubi. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Bol Makur. As now we're still waiting for Honor Molana to come back, and if he can make it to come back, we will go straight to Clubhouse to see if there are some few questions we will pick up from there, and also some follow-up questions as well from the comment section. Yeah, we got some few here as well. We will give him. So bear with us, guys. We are waiting. Pardon? Okay. Yeah.
Isaac, I was trying to reach Molana, but he could not pick up. We might close the show, or give him a few minutes to come and answer question from John Mayol. Then we'll go from there. But look like you have a problem with this network. So our audience, we apologize for the inconvenience, but my suggestion is we could give a chance to Clubhouse to throw in their analyze, and then if he come back, he will answer the Jonkur question.
Yeah, let's give him about 2-3 minutes. While waiting for him, we can play Gordon Kong song while waiting, and then you try at the back channel there to reach out to him.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead, play it. How about instead of playing, how about we unleash Clubhouse? Let's open Clubhouse. Sorry for using the word unleash. Let's bring Clubhouse to analyze. What do you think? Right. But have you connected Isaac's phone to Clubhouse?
Yes, it's connected to
Okay.
Clubhouse.
Okay, you can bring in a Jonkur to analyze and other folks. Mulana is not picking up, so I suggest maybe what should we do? Close it?
We believe Molana is not coming back. He has a network issue, and we cannot reach him as well. We try to call him on the other channel. We apologize for those who have written their questions here, and those in the clubhouse as well who were having their question to Molana. You will hold back with your questions because he's not here. He's the one who should have answered them. So we'll come to an end to end this show. And if we can make it again another time, we will catch up with him. And you are highly welcome to come and give your opinion or views or perspective how the government is helping the people. I got some good questions here from you guys. Jonkur, you have asked very valid questions here as well, but no one could answer it correctly. So we will leave it from here. And we apologize for any inconvenience and for those whom their questions are not answered. We catch up again. May God bless all of you. And may God bless South Sudan. May God protect our evacuees, those who are fleeing the war zone in Khartoum. Thank you. Have a good night, good day, good afternoon, wherever you are tuning in. Thank you. Oh my goodness! I've seen Mulana has come here. Mulana, we were about to close the show now.
Running out. Data.
Okay.
Internet can Uganda.
You're right. No worries. We have closed down those in Clubhouse already closed.
Okay.
Yes, but Bolmakur can continue with you with a few questions, and also I can dig back in the commentary section here. We have some few questions as well, or one. So, Bolmakur, when you come in, or I read out the question of Jonkur, my old face here, to Molana. Unmute yourself, Bol.
I said, tell me, we have to bring back those folk in Clubhouse because they have a valid question to ask Molana. So, which is actually the main. Yeah. So, Jonkur, have we cut out off a Jonkur?
Yeah, they close it. The room is closed completely. Let me just double check here quickly.
Let me text Mehdi to bring back the room.
Texting. Yeah. Here is the question of Jonkur Mayol is asking how we have capacity to evaluate our citizens from Sudan while we are producing 170,000 barrels of oil per day.
Yeah, actually, I said before that we have limited capacity to quickly evacuate our citizens the same way United States of America or China or Britain evacuated their citizens. But at the same time, because we are more than citizens of any other country in the world that are residing in the Sudan, we are more than 1 million South Sudanese. We cannot guarantee, evacuating them as quickly as possible. That is why it is possible for us to engage in the process that will bring peace to Sudan, so that our citizens voluntarily return to Sudan, to South Sudan, instead of being rashly, being evacuated on the rush, which we don't have that capacity. We have, Yonkor, we have the willingness as government of South Sudan. We have willingness to help our citizens to repatriate to their motherlands. However, the difficult circumstances we are in, particularly on the economics, it doesn't show that we are not willing to bring our citizens. But our citizens will have to find their way to closer to where the help can be actually possible. The citizen initiative, which I said is led by Ateny and many others, have actually called for contributions from government officials and businessmen, and I have seen a very good response. People responded to that call very well, and which actually will help them to have some money in which they can actually hire lorries and trucks to take our citizens who are trapped in Sudan to our border, and from there the help can be possible.
All right. Thank you so much for answering John Kormayol question. Coming to how can the participation of women and marginalized group be ensured in this peace process in the post-conflict period?
In both our two countries, the women are marginalized, are the marginalized of the marginalized. Dr. Jones said this several times. But President Kiir, in particular, has a very unique way of engaging women in the government and even in the NGOs. Imagine if one person or two people comes to meet President Salva Kiir and their organization, he will ask them about where are the women among you, which is a very good thing actually. But as South Sudan is one of the countries that is tasked to mediate, in peace of the Sudan, the committee that President Salva Kiir will appoint to lead the mediation in the Sudan would be having a number of women in that committee, I believe. I am not speaking in my official capacity. I'm just speaking as an analyst, because I know if anything comes to the president, he will always want the role of women to be obvious. The issue of making women to gain their rights with their brothers, the men, is a big issue. It requires a number of actors to actually work on it. It did not. The women emancipation did not come overnight. Even in the United States of America, people have worked over years in order for women to be emancipated. Even in the United Kingdom, where the democracy actually
started,
the modern democracy started. Even up to 1927, women were not even allowed to vote. Okay, yes. It is until 1930 they allowed women with money, the women from middle class, to be voters. Okay, it went on until 1957, 1 year after the independence of Sudan, including South Sudan, once we were part of Sudan, where women were now allowed to vote in the adult suffrage, all of them. So anything is a process, it's not an event. But I believe women are even more intelligent than men. If we talk about, the limitation that is given to women by men. Is not God creation. Women are not limited, and this will require, some sort of proactiveness that any player whether socially or politically or otherwise, should ensure that women should not be marginalized. Women should take a leading stage. So I'm sure if people believe the way I believe, I think there will be no any problems with women to participate in peace process, to participate in anything. Don't you see in other countries now, even women fight together with men inside the trench, and then sometimes men can be even evacuated and women remain there. You know, so I don't think there is any limitations, and I'm quite sure women would be considered.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
I have one question also here from Emmanuel Kenyi. Is
Yes.
asking you, yeah, what are some of the possible negative effects of the war in Sudan to South Sudan beside the coming back of our people?
Well, there are actually many effects. One is that South Sudan is within the proximity of the Sudan, is the closest, and we have a border that goes for more than 4,000 square kilometers. That can see South Sudan receiving the influx of refugees all over South Sudan, which in any event, South Sudan will not be having the capacity to host them. That's one. Number two, it can affect us economically, and the effect of war in Sudan is already seen in Juba, is already seen in South Sudan. First of all, our oil production, okay, will actually decrease if not stopped. But if the war continue, we will be forced to close down the oil production, because the pipelines, if there is no anybody controlling Sudan, the pipeline can be sabotaged by the people who love chaos. Okay, so if you shut down oil, then with oil still 80% of our revenue, the government doesn't fund itself without oil. If you lose 80%, I know I've seen the National Revenue Authority, led by Dr. Muga, has collected 19 billions, I was told, 19 billions SSP, which can be 20% of the national income. So oil still remain 80% of national income, national revenue. And if 80% of our oil, of our income is closed down, then we will be the most affected, even more than Sudan. That's two. The other thing is, you know, our image internationally was almost cleaned by the fact that we host the Sudanese parties, warring parties in Juba. We call it Juba Peace Agreement. Okay, the agreement we have within ourselves, the revitalized peace agreement was signed in Khartoum, but was implemented, was officially signed in Addis Ababa, and this one now is called Juba Peace Agreement. Now countries like United States of America can even talk about, we have talked to President Salva Kiir, or we have urged President Salva Kiir to speak to warring parties in the Sudan. Thus, we are almost there. But if the Juba peace totally break down to the point of leaving Sudan in chaos, the image we have gained about brokering peace for others, which shows that we have managed our own, because you can see how friendly now is President Salva Kiir to Riek Machar. Recently, President Salva Kiir went to attend the wedding of Dr. Riek's daughter, And by the way, listen, what happened? It was President Salva Kiir who was thought to be the father of the girls, because he is the one who gave the daughter of his brother, the young Machar, to his to his son-in-law. So that kind of political rapprochement, that kind of social and political rapprochement, give us, particularly those of us who have been with them, even very recently, and how the two men were in troubles since 2013. They have come closer to they have come closer than any other time. We show that South Sudan will never have a war again. So combined with the peace we brokered for others, I thought our image would be totally clean. So if Sudan breakdowns, then that kind of recognition will be actually withdrawn. The international community will see us to have brokered a fragile peace, the Juba Peace Agreement, which has broken down and even broke Sudan with it together. So these are the effects that South Sudan is actually praying very much to ensure that the Sudan doesn't break down. Sudan has to continue, and it shouldn't disintegrate. The disintegration of Sudan is very bad for us.
Thank you so much, Mulana. For those in the clubhouse, if there is anyone with a question there, you will have to raise up your hand. And while we're waiting to give you some question there, I have one follow-up question as well regarding the civil organization or civil society organizations. What role can civil society organization and grassroots movements can play in promoting peace and reconciliation in Sudan currently?
Well, I'm not sure whether you are talking about the civil society in South Sudan or the civil society in the Sudan.
In South Sudan, they are helping, like those who are now with refugees in the border. They are receiving people down there, working with maybe
civil society goes where government is accepted to go. Now it has started with the political part of the conflict, which is actually handed over to President Salva Kiir and President William Samoei Ruto and President Jole of Djibouti to first mediate and make sure the war is stopped. From there, a civil society organization can play a role, because a civil society organization cannot play a role when there is a fighting, the fighting that is erupting here and there. They also need their safety actually to be guaranteed here. So the government will first go, and the civil society will follow suit. I know civil society organization of South Sudan has a number of very, very courageous and strong men and women. I was a member of civil society, society organization myself, back to before 27 November 2013. And I knew those who are still there are very strong and can do a job in as much as the peace and safety are actually guaranteed for them to be able to play a role.
All right, thank you so much. I have one person in Clubhouse, Yon. You can open your mic and you ask your question to Honorable Ateny Wek.
Okay, thank you, Rob. So I have one question, very specific. How would the relationship between South Sudan and Sudan change if Ateny become, the de facto leader of the Sudanese government, assuming that, he end up defeating the Sudanese army? Will that change will that bring a change to relationship between Sudan and South Sudan? So that will be my question.
Thank you.
No, I don't think because the relationship between South Sudan and Sudan is not personal. It's dictated by commonalities. South Sudan interest and the Sudan interest are actually going in conjunction, and therefore whoever comes as the governor of Sudan, as the ruler of Sudan, will be dictated by these commonalities and the mutual interest between our two countries. We have not supported any part as government. We have not supported any part. We have called for them to cease fighting immediately. And because we think taking side as the repercussions, if the side you support cannot win, then you would have actually created a diplomatic rift, which was not completely necessary. We know that President Salva Kiir, a number of other generals, like those of Faustino Temgwali, and those of Daniel Awinakot, and those of the number of other SPLA leaders who were in the Sudanese army before the liberation struggle, have their colleagues within the army that is fighting now, the Rapid Support Force. The only people that they don't know are the generals within the Rapid Support Force, because Rapid Support Force was created by al-Bashir in an attempt to fight the SPLA. And when SPLA brokered peace and signed peace with the National Congress, the Rapid Support Force was turned to Darfur to quell the rebellion in Darfur. So maybe these generals have no much knowledge about the Rapid Support Forces generals, because these are very new generals, but they know within the Sudanese army. So if anybody among these people, which I don't expect, managed to defeat the other and install himself as the president, he will be dictated by the commonalities and between South Sudan and the Sudan, and will continue to protect the interests of South Sudanese, like we are protecting the interests of the Sudanese people in Juba.
All right, thank you so much. Jonkor Mayol has come back and is asking me that he need his question to be answered. Now you answered him before and in his answer, so I bring it up again to answer that question, such that he himself can understand.
Yes, Jonkor Mayol. Jonkor Mayol, I have already said South Sudan is producing 170,000 barrels a month, a day. Okay, and 170,000 barrels a day goes through Sudan, through pipelines that goes to southern Sudan up to Port Sudan, and both south of the Sudan and now when I say south of the Sudan, I mean Sudan. Sudan has its own southern part now. Without us, we are now South Sudan as a country. So the oil which is produced is very small compared to other oil producing countries. And as fights continue, it can even reduce or even shut down completely, because if there is no anyone who is controlling Sudan, if there is no peace in Sudan, there will be anarchy. And if there is anarchy, Sudan is arms to teeth. Everybody in Sudan is arms. And those armed men can even affect the flow of oils, because they can tamper with the 5 lines. And if they tamper with 5 lines, then we will be losing 80% of our national income. Now, the non-oil revenue total for 20% of the government budget. So the 80% of the government budget still come from oil. So that is why we pray hard, including yourself, Mayol. You should also pray that Sudan doesn't disintegrate, because if it disintegrates, then it will affect South Sudan more than any other, than even itself.
All right, thank you so much, Molana, for answering Jonkor Mayol question. Bol Makur, if you have any question to add in, you can. In the side of Clubhouse, I haven't seen anyone who have a question now, unless if anyone raise up his hand or her hand, we will bring you up to ask Molana before we close the show. I will yield microphone back to my co-host, Bol Makur. Bol, for that.
Thank you, Isaac. I appreciate. Thank you, Molana Ateny Wek Ateny, for coming to Lake State Media, and thank you for answering a question regarding Sudan conflict. I will take you away from this topic, and I will ask you about some other things within South Sudan. And my first question is that you've been away for a while now from the government, because you were, in a very, very essential position. What do you think about the life outside and life within the government?
No, life outside, okay, is good, simply because you get relieved from official responsibilities.
Right.
But you still, in your private capacity, you are still also hustling with your life. Okay. I am not seeing myself outside the government, because being in government, I have said it several times, being in government does not mean having a position. Okay. One good example is Ali Al-Hajj Mohammed was a minister, and has actually has been minister for about 4 portfolios, ranging between 1989 and 1994. So a total of 5 years with al-Bashir. They fall out, and he went to exile. He was in United Kingdom. And then when he was coming back to Sudan after 24 years, he was coming to visit. The government of al-Bashir collapsed. When the government of al-Bashir collapsed, he was also collected and put in prison, because he has the responsibility. For the 5 years he spent with al-Bashir, he has done good and bad in that, unless South Sudanese doesn't know the meaning of government. If you know the meaning of government, if you become a member of government one time, that will bind you for the rest of your life, unless that government is out of power. Okay? So as long as President Kiir continue as the president, I'm still part of his government, even if I don't have a portfolio.
That's great.
Okay. Now, if I am asked to do any assignment, I will do it. If I am not asked, I will continue. I will continue the way I am, and support the government and support the SPLM. So it doesn't bother me much. I am not part of those who don't understand the government. Like in South Sudan, somebody can be even a vice president now. If you are a leaf, the next thing is for you to take a gun and come back through negotiating table in order to come back to the same position. I will not do that. And I'm not even willing to go back to the same position that I was before. If anybody see me and say that Ateny Wek is lobbying to come back as a press secretary, unless press secretary in another life, not in the life of of the life which I am in now on earth.
Right.
You do a position only one time. I have done my legacy. I've done 9 years with President Salva Kiir. He has given me the liberty to be with him for 9 years, and I thank him for that. Unless he is so willing to give me another position in which I can be helping the nation. If I am not given, I am not bothered at all.
Thank you, Molana, for answering that question. You have just mentioned something that I was about to come into, because you have an experience in our political arena of South Sudan. If you are relieved, right away you turn around and you become a bad boy. But I have not seen that colors on you. You have
I
been
will
very
never
good,
do that.
and you have speak actually very highly about President Kiir, and you have speak highly about South Sudan government, and you have actually maintained yourself not to be dragged into other conversations. What kind of heart do you have, Master?
No, I cannot describe myself in that. But what I know is that a child comes from the womb of a woman, and the woman will love that child to death. Your mother loves you more than your father. Okay?
Absolutely.
But you breastfeed until when you are 2 years, they want you to have another child. Okay? They will let you go. You are not going away because they don't want you. Okay? They are graduating you so that you do other things. You go to nursery and they start schooling while your mother, okay, conceive another child. This is a natural process. President Kiir cannot have 2 press secretaries at the same time. So I wish my sister Adio a very, very very good success.
Right.
And I am not completely, lobbying to come back to the same position, because you cannot be a man of all time. God has planned that I should come as press secretary from 2013 up to 2022. That's what God has written. Whether I like or I don't want, I have to go. And if I go, I have to accept it. And let others also start to serve. By the way, I came in a very, very difficult time.
Right.
A difficult time that I could have even died, by the way, because the media called me, and I was connected to the media. The media called me for a live coverage, for a live, response to questions. And I will be standing in the street that is known in Juba, with all the lights, okay, directed on me, so that there's no shade. And those international media houses like Al Jazeera English, CNN, Jazeera Arabic, BBC, they don't need a slight mistakes in their coverage. So I am always put into lights.
What do you mean a slight mistake? Can you break that down?
Yeah, in which a sniper, if South Sudanese were actually malicious, okay, even when we differ, we don't kill in cold blood.
Right.
If the differences between President Salva Kiir and Riek Machar were personal, and that the people of South Sudan were just, trying to kill randomly, I wouldn't be here with you today. A sniper would have just gone up on a tree and shoot my head while I don't know where, the bullets came from.
Right.
Now it's good. I lost the position, and I am still with you. Which one is good?
Thank you. Thank you, Molana. I follow you a lot on social media, because I am a child of a social media. When Facebook came out, I was the first guy with my cousin Malit to sign up before social media was
in 2007.
Yes, in USA it came out in 2004, but you're right. In 2007 is when it went public.
Yeah,
so,
I had mine in 2007.
Absolutely. So, but I follow you closely on the social media, but you don't know. You said you have made a statement that there is a bully that was going on before when you were in the government, and right now you are out of government. Those bullies should not attempt to do the same things they are doing right now. Are you feeling insecure?
No, no, no. I'm not feeling insecure. That's why I'm still saying I'm a member of government of South Sudan. Okay, I don't need to have a position, but I'm still a member of government. I still have my bodyguards. I still have my driver. Okay, and I still have all the privileges that are actually accorded to the person of my status. So I don't feel like threatened completely.
Thank you, Molana.
Yeah, but as much as I am free to travel anywhere, I don't
Okay.
take permission from anyone. Okay,
Well,
it's also a good part of being out of government for sometimes. You know, when you get a government job, you will only be traveling when you are told to travel.
Okay,
Or
you
you
were
get
holding
permission.
a good position, a high position in government.
Yeah.
When you
Yes.
were in that position, I'm sorry, it looked like a personal, but you know, it's a governmental question. Were you
Yeah.
given a place? Where did the government give you a house to live in when you were a press secretary? Have
Yeah,
they
actually,
taken away from you now?
the house was on rent. You know, because you know government houses are not many in Juba.
Okay.
This is a city that was one time the seats of the government of the High Executive Council in the 70s on the wake of the Addis Ababa Agreement 1972, and which has no much infrastructure, with few houses that were constructed by Yugoslavian, now as disintegrated, and later on, with the division of South Sudan into 3 regions, it became a seat of central of the Equatoria region. There were no buildings that were actually added on it. And when the SPLM came and formed the government of the government of Southern Sudan as an autonomy in a transition of 6 years, they didn't build any houses for government. So it is the same old buildings of 1970s, which cannot house all those who are working with the government. So when I was appointed, and I was appointed in a position of a senior government officials, grade 1 special, the house was rented for me. I was, you know, the house was rented. And when I was removed, like the public service regulation says, you have a grace period of 3 months. So from August to November, my house was being paid. Until later on, I'm continuing now in that house, but I'm paying my own.
Thank you, Molana. I will stop from here because I don't want to go into deep personalities. I was just asking that question because it's something that I think about. You want to
No, it's
talk
okay.
about.
This is the general questions. It's not personal.
Thank you, Molana.
Yeah.
Also, I want to take
personal.
you away from that. Let's go to something that we were they were about to come into our dream of Sudanese, but in a time come they walk back. When President Kiir went to Alia Place, what's the name? Goliar. There were a very good initiative, and Junubin were very happy with the hope that road will pass into Goliar. Right away, the city of Kuramchel will be established. What happened?
Well, you know, sometimes we can take it to the difficult economic situation we are facing. But President Salva Kiir has a good intention. And the government led by President Salva Kiir has also a good intention. And by the way, let me tell you this. Do you know who want people to establish Ramchal?
Yes.
Okay. If you know them, you will be surprised. Okay. Both Victoria and Taban Dengai wants people to move to relocate from Juba. Leave alone the intention that President Salva Kiir has to see Ramchal as a new city as a national capital, so that it is modernized. Now you cannot expand Juba because the civil population in Juba feel that their ancestral land is being grabbed by the people who will be actually staying indefinitely, because staying in a capital is indefinite. You stay indefinitely. If you own a house there, you will be inheriting the houses to your children, and your children will also inherit to their children, and goes and goes. So the Bari community, owing to this, they don't feel comfortable with the continuation of Juba as a capital city, and also they are mindful of the land grabbing that is happening, because the good policies of the government are not implemented, so the land are not surveyed properly, and the allocation of land is not being done by the Central Equatoria, Ministry of Housing and Public Utilities, or land. They are not doing it. So people grab the land in order to leave because they are staying in Juba. The project that the president saw as the first thing for him to do is the roads. The road that is going to Upper Nile, up to Paloch and Rang, has already reached Bor and Biyun. The road is undertaken by Dr. Benjamin Bolmel with his company, and also a road that goes from Tarkeka, because the Chinese have done it up to Tarkeka. But from Tarkeka to Goliar, then Goliar to Yerul, and Yerul to Rumbek to Toin to Wow, and up to Awil, is also undertaken by BMC, the company owned by Dr. Benjamin Bolmel. And by the way, they have done marvelous. They have done, when you see how they have widened the road by eliminating trees closer to the roads, you will be happy that if such project come to fruition, then it will be marvelous. These are the roads that the President Salva Kiir will take them as his legacy for South Sudan. So President Salva Kiir has good intention to make sure that the infrastructure of South Sudan are actually built, and you also see that if the road are constructed, then the communal fighting will even come to an end. There is another road also, which is a very good road, and this is going to be the first road that goes deep into the Dinka area. A road that is undertaken by Kwalkwaldao. That road starts from Gongarol Kachwal, okay, goes to Wanalel, from Wanalel to Tet, from Tet to Pagol, from Pagol to Palkot Mayar, then from Palkot Mayar to Luanyaker, from Luanyaker to Liadnam, from Liadnam it crosses the Ju River, and then goes to Twij Mayadit. From Twij Mayadit it ends in Abiai. Is undertaken by Pawak Group, led by Kwalkwaldao. If these roads are undertaken, I think the people of South Sudan will be happy in the next few years to come.
Thank you, Molana. I am very happy for your narration, and Sudanese are listening to you. You are being watched, 538 people. Okay. I want to take you away from that, and there is a very important question concerning detainees. The number of days a detainee can be held before being tried varies depending on the country and its law. In some countries, such as the United States, the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution guarantee the right to a speedy trial, which generally means within 70 days of being charged. However, there are some exceptions to the rules. Other countries may have different time limit for how long someone can be detained before being tried. In our country, people are detained and take too long to be tried. And I'm telling you, there was a time myself, I got a ticket in 2010. I went to the court and my ticket was not found. And so it take time. So one day, police got me on the road and arrest me for that. Only 2 hours arrest. it was like 2 years. And right now, people, before I was tried, I got into that trouble at 10 a.m. and I was taken to jail and I was tried at 3 p.m. Then I was released and get out at 4 p.m. I did not even sleep in the jail. But to me, that day was like hell, just some hours. There are reasons that somebody can be detained for a long time. There are reasons that somebody can be detained for a short time. But you know, in South Sudan, most people are detained for a political reason and take very long time to be tried. As a lawyer, by profession,
Yes,
why it take too long for Junubin to try the detainees?
I somebody called me when I tried to stop the cold. I found myself almost locked out. Let me see to come back.
But you are now okay.
You are there.
Seeing me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Are you seeing me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, but
here.
I'm not seeing you.
Okay,
if you are
if you
seeing
not
me,
see
then
us,
it's good.
okay.
No, it's okay. If you are
okay.
seeing me, then there's no problem. Okay.
Okay. We see you.
What I'm saying here. First of all, I'm sorry for your experience, your particular experience in 2010 or 2007. However, to tell you the truth, you are living in United States of America. The country that is 240 years old. Unlike our country, which is now turning 12 years in July 9 this year. When we talk about human rights and when we talk about the right of those detained, we talk about institutions, building the institution. Are you listening to me?
Yes, I'm listening to you, Malana.
Yeah,
And everybody, not
institutions.
me alone. Everybody.
Yes, and particularly the institutions of law enforcement institutions. Okay, you have the judiciary, you have the attorneys in the Ministry of Justice, you have the advocates that are working in the market, and you have the police and the prison warders. All these institutions must be properly built and strengthened to manage the law in the country. But when the country is struggling with economic situation, you can have good intention. Like now, the government of South Sudan has good intention. If you look at the laws that are actually enforced in South Sudan, they are the same laws as the one in the United States of America, because the law is about cut and paste. But you have a difficulty of how they can be actually implemented, because the police, okay, received less than 3,000 SSP, which is about $3 a month. Will you really guarantee that a police of that kind can guarantee the law? The judges are suffering. The judges don't even get something like $1,000 a month. They don't get it. Okay? We have very good judges in South Sudan. We have very good lawyers in South Sudan. But all the things are frustrated by the fact that the economic situation is not helping at all. So when someone is arrested in South Sudan, and if the police doesn't take the notes on why a certain person was detained, if the police doesn't do the investigation, how do you take somebody to court and the investigation is not done? And how do you let somebody go also and you think he has committed a crime? What is happening in South Sudan is the slowness of the thing, because people are facing economic hazards, and they are not doing it intentionally. Nobody requires somebody to be locked behind the bars, without taking them to court of law. But all the facilities that are supposed to be in the hands of judiciary and the law enforcing agencies are not there. But the government of South Sudan have good intention. That's why the laws that are protecting the rights of the accused, are there. Only implementation that requires building of the institutions. So we need, all of us as South Sudanese, to build the institutions of law enforcing agencies, and make sure that we don't fight again, because fighting is the one that is actually that has broke the neck of our economic well-being. And therefore, if we don't fight, we will ask for international community to help us to build those institutions, because human being can only be good if the institution safeguard them. But if there are no institutions to safeguard people will be corrupt, and some people will be even above the law. That's what I see. And this view doesn't represent government; it represents me as Ateny Wek.
Thank you, Molana. I appreciate. There are a lot to be heard, but I will start from here. And because you have answered a lot of my question and a lot of question from Lake State Media staff, Isaac Tiengfol, and we will, start from here, because you have also some things to do, because it's late now in where you at. And I will give a chance. I will give a chance to my buddy Isaac to ask you some question, but we always would like you to come back to our platform so you can answer many questions that nobody can answer them, because a lot of people shy away from media. But this is where things will be talked about and solution will be fine. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Molana. I have one of the viewer here, Dominic Dutte, has a question for you regarding Ramshal. He said that
So we have come to an end.
Not yet. Just only one question to finish. Can you answer that question? Says that what is wrong with the Dr. Riag and Taban Dengai pushing for Ramshal city establishment? Tell us more about this. Can you hear me, Mulana? Hello, Mulana.
Yes.
Yeah. Somebody need to know
you
about.
Are out, yeah?
Is Dominic?
Hello.
Yes.
Isaac, I'm leaving, so I have a quick question to ask.
Hello.
Mulana has, I think has gone.
I think his network.
His network is
yes.
Yeah, network. Okay. Dominic Dude is still interested to know why he is not moved to Ramshal. Okay, I think the network has cut him off. He can't hear us, and also his camera went black. So we have already exhausted our time here, 1 hour and 40 minutes now. I think we will leave the show. We will close the show, and we will bring him back again for more conversation and questioning. So Mulana, yeah, thank you so much for coming. Mulana, if you can make your final remarks for closure, will be all right.
Yes, Bon Makur and brother Paul, and all those in the clubhouse. Thank you so much for actually seeking for me to come and share ideas with you. I will be ready anytime. If you people feel like I have something to contribute, anytime, okay, in any place, don't hesitate to call me. I will be ready. I'm still here to participate in the nation building. I left the United Kingdom on the 27th of February 2007, and I have never returned even for one day. Okay, so being in South Sudan is not defined by a job. I've stayed 6 years and a half. I wasn't working with the government before I was appointed, and appointed into the government, and I spent 9 years, and I'm now out, and I'm still in South Sudan. If I traveled outside and come back to South Sudan, then the period that I'm outside, because the internet is quite stronger in other countries than in our own. So if you people are lucky to find me later on, if I have visited, I visited other countries for 2 weeks maximum. I don't stay for a month anywhere, because there is nothing like South Sudan. For me, I don't see anything like South Sudan. So anytime you look for me, you will find me, my brother. And I thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Mulana. We have come to an end. Bol, do you have your last shot?
I don't have any other remarks. I just only want to say thank you, Molana, for coming to Lake State Media, and thanks all our viewers for sharing with us. We will be live next time again with the Molana.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good time. Good morning. Good afternoon to all of you, wherever you are tuning.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. God bless all of you. Go in peace. Bye.
William.